Hey, welcome to The Perspective today. My name is Mike Sherbino. Excited to talk about the problem that we're going to be addressing today because there are answers to many of these huge problems we're dealing with. And what is that I'm talking about? Well, what about homelessness? What about people who live on the streets? What about people who maybe have their own housing but are just overwhelmed with discouragement and depression? Hey, and you can be living in the Ritz or in the pits, and you can still be overwhelmed with life. The story we have for you today is of a young woman who's overcome those things through her faith in Christ. It has brought her to a place where she is actually one of God's healing agents. And if at any time during the program today you want to talk to somebody, I want to invite you to reach out to our toll-free number. It's 855-910-6297. And now to introduce to you our very special guest for today, we have Sara McKnight. Sara, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
From the thriving metropolis of Kitchener-Waterloo.
Yes, yeah.
My best friend growing up was from Kitchener, and he played for the hockey team there.
Yep. Rangers, go Rangers.
Well, I'm not going to say that.
Okay, I could say that, yes.
Did you always live in that area?
Yeah, I grew up in Cambridge, so not too far away. Yeah. A 10-minute drive, so that's where I grew up. So we've always been in that area.
And for those watching today who have no idea where Cambridge is, maybe our American friends or people on the other side of the country, Cambridge, Kitchener-Waterloo area, it's about an hour to an hour and a half out of the greater Toronto area.
Yeah.
Life wasn't always easy, was it?
No, there was a period of time where it was not easy at all.
Could you unpack that a little bit for us today?
Yeah. So for me, I grew up in a Christian home, and I grew up with family who really laid a great foundation for us as far as our faith in Christ, as far as our identity in Christ. And we didn't have a whole lot of extras, but it was okay because we had our family, we had our faith, we were very active in the church, and that was great for a long time. My mom had remarried when I was about 3 years old, so I had a stepdad who was very involved in our life, and he was wonderful, great example, again, of a man of integrity.
So everything's sounding perfect up to this point.
Yeah, it sounded pretty good. Throughout my teenage years, I started struggling more with anxiety and depression. So I started feeling like hard to fit in. Like it was very difficult to find my place within the church. I felt like as I was sharing more about maybe my emotions and what I was feeling, that I was sort of hitting a bit of a wall. And again, I was quite young, so I understand how that might feel in a young child's mind and not getting the answers, so to speak, that I was hoping to get. So I grew frustrated with the church at that point.
Because you were looking to the church to give you the answers.
That's right. I was looking to the church to give me answers, to give me comfort. I was just struggling, right? So fast forward into I was in college. I went to Bible college. I started there for about 3 years, and everything was going well. At that point, my stepfather had passed away quite suddenly, and so I was actually at the home when it happened, and he had suddenly died of a heart attack.
Wow.
So when that happened, it was quite a shock, right? Our whole life just stopped as we knew it. Again, wrestling with God again. Why would this happen? How could this happen? The emotions I was struggling with were very tough and hard to unpack. And again, I was turning to people to sort of soothe my pain. And I found that wasn't working. And so again, I grew frustrated, right? And so again, I started taking it out upon my pain was a result of other people not knowing how to respond, right?
Interesting.
Yeah. So then at that point,
we always like to blame someone or something, don't we?
Yes, we do. So that's what I was doing. I was blaming others for my pain. So at that point, I was really starting to question my faith, really starting to wonder, this God that we've been taught about, the foundation that I was given, I'm starting to see it in a different way. I'm starting to be, life isn't always great. Now I'm hitting a little bit of a valley. And I was really struggling with reconciling God and that emotion. And so for me, I decided to turn away from God. So I started to leave the church. I left the church. I dropped out of school. I ended up getting involved in a relationship that was definitely not good for me. I left my friends, left my family, and it just sort of did a complete 180.
Wow.
Yeah. And so
You ended up on the streets.
I did.
Tell us about that.
So in that relationship that I got into, we ended up just going to bars and drinking, and that was all fun for a while until the person I started seeing, he actually was into crystal meth. And at that point, I was kind of rebellious, and I didn't think too much about it. Didn't think about the consequence. I kind of thought, well, okay, I didn't know much about drugs at that time, right? So I stuck with it. I stuck with him. Everything was going good for a while until the drug habit started to interfere with my workplace. I got fired from my job, and it wasn't because of myself. It was because of my partner at the time showing up to my workplace under the influence. At that point, I felt like I couldn't leave because I could help him, right? I started to realize the severity of his drug addiction, and I started to say, well, you know what? I can help him. I can stick through this. I can do it. That led us to losing my place that I had at the time. Then I lost my vehicle. I lost my job. A lot of my friends and my family that I did still have started to back away just because of the things we started to get into. So with the drugs, that led us to dealing with some people who were very negative, criminal activity. I started realizing that the person I was with was not who I thought he was. He was, in fact, a drug dealer. And again, I wanted to cover it up and not really tell those who I was close with and just say, you know what, it's okay. I got to stick through it. I'm going to be loyal to him. I can maybe help him. And through that, I found myself, I slipped into it with him. And so him and I were then together with crystal meth and dealing and criminal activity to get money to even purchase the drug.
It's
a spiral.
Unending cycle.
Yeah. So we found ourselves on the street. We found ourselves homeless. And so about 2.5 years, we were homeless together. And so we used shelters in Kitchener. We used shelters in Toronto. We used shelters in Newmarket. We were kind of transient between those three.
They just sleep on the streets sometimes?
Yeah. There's times where their shelters were full. And so we've had to sleep out in parks. I got a ticket for sleeping in a park. And at that point, I just thought that was absolutely crazy. I have no money. What do you think I'm going to pay that with? I got a ticket for sleeping in the park. We would just find some very sketchy places to sleep. We'd go to a lot of houses that were known as drug dens at the time. And while the person I was with, he would be using, I'd be trying to find a corner to sleep. Really unsafe environments for me or for all of us, 100%.
We want to come back and hear more of that part of the story because there's so many things that you've said that are really close to my heart. Wondering, what were you thinking at that time? And where were your parents and all those relationships? But let's jump ahead for a minute before we come to our break
For sure.
in the program. You now are helping people in the same situation.
Yeah.
Tell us about the organization you work with and what you're doing right now.
So right now I work at the Rave Hope Community Center in Kitchener. So I am program supervisor there. I oversee all the day-to-day activities and all the programs. So what Rave Hope does is we are a day space. So we're a day space for people who are low income, people experiencing poverty, people in our community who are marginalized, and really just anyone who needs support. So we're open 7 days a week, every day of the year. And we have lunches, we have dinners, we have showers, we have laundry, we have a food bank, we have counseling, OW, Ontario Works, and Ontario Disability Support Program, housing search, Bible studies, chapel. We really try to hit all sorts of resources for our folks to access if they want to. And so my job is just to oversee the day-to-day and make connections.
Give me a time frame from when you were on the streets to when you took this position.
Yeah.
How much time elapsed in between?
About 5 years.
Wow.
It's great because when I was on the street in Kitchener, I accessed Ray of Hope Community Center for a meal. And at that point, they were just open for dinners. They had expanded since then, thankfully. And we just came in for dinner. And I would just pop in, eat, kind of leave, didn't really want to be noticed, didn't want to be known. But I was noticed. I was noticed. And that's
God was noticing you as well.
Yeah.
The whole journey.
Yeah.
We're going to come back and talk more about that in just a moment. But I want to say today that as you're listening to Sara share her story, maybe it connects in your heart, or maybe you're thinking of a family member or a loved one. I know I am right now. There's a toll-free number that you can call, 855-910-6297. We'd love to hear from you. We want to pray with you and encourage you. Or write me at theperspective.tv. You're going to be back in a moment with Sara. Welcome back to The Perspective. I'm Mike Sherbino, and my special guest today is Sara McKnight. We're going to be talking with Sara in just a moment, but I want to give out the 800 number because what she's sharing really catches a hard note in anyone's heart. If you'd like to talk to somebody, call 855-910-6297. We have our toll-free number, people there to talk with you, to pray with you, and in 8 different languages. So that's pretty cool. Sara, you have an amazing ministry that has grown out of your own experience of living on the streets. I'd love to just take another program and maybe you'll come back and just to hear about that because as I've just been sharing with you on the break, we are dealing with many, many people who live on the streets. I think of a conversation I had last Saturday after I had spoken at our outreach event, and the young couple were there, and he'd been clean for a year, and he had gotten a job at the car wash, and that was amazing. And the girl that he was with, she said, "I'm trying to go clean," and she was on a withdrawal. She was on methadone at that point, but I just saw within them a desire to get out of the mess that they were in.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that, what Ray of Hope is, and then you have another organization that you represent, Bridges Out of Poverty.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's your floor.
Yes. So
Ray of Hope.
Ray of Hope Community Center. What again? It all ties together. My story and Ray of Hope is that when I was homeless, I used Ray of Hope, and the staff remembered me, and they made a point to always connect with me. And at that point, couldn't really care less.
How old were you at that time?
I was 20. I
Okay.
was 20 years old. And again, I kind of turned my back on the staff, and the staff continued to pursue me, and the staff continued to just make a point. Hey, Sara, how you doing? Hey, Sara, praying for you. As Ray of Hope is a Christian organization, an openly Christian organization. And again, I was kind of still mad at God, but I was like, that's a little strange. Like, of all these people that come to Ray of Hope, you still remember me. That's a little strange. But that made a big impact. And so fast forward a couple years, that still stuck with me. And I came around and I kind of showed my face at Ray of Hope once, and the staff remembered me still. And so that was 2-3 years later. They still remembered me. And that connection is a big piece as to how I got connected back to Ray of Hope to work there. They remembered me. I said, look, I'm trying to get my life back together. Can I volunteer? And they said, yes, of course. And again, I was shocked. I have no schooling. I have nothing to show for it. I'm just showing up, and I'm kind of back on track. Can I volunteer? And yeah, of course. But you remember who you are. They gave me dignity, and they valued my story, and that just propelled me forward. I later then applied for a part-time position. They said yes. Again, I was shocked. I was like, okay, why me? Of all people.
Had you cleaned up from your drug habit at that point?
Yeah. So, what's amazing is that God really protected me from addiction. Is that those around me were addicted. Those around me, if they even passed away since. And God, I really feel like God has had his hand in my life the entire time. He kept me safe, and he kept me, just out of reach. I could have gone over the end, but I really believe that my foundation and the family that I have and their prayers and just the presence of God in my life has protected me from a lot. So I never fell to addiction, which is pretty wild to me. And so I don't have that story to share that I overcame addiction. I really felt like God protected me from addiction. And when I came back to Ray of Hope and they remembered me, I was just, there's something to this God thing again. People remember.
And now you're the supervisor?
Now I'm a supervisor.
How cool is that?
Yes. And now I get to share my experience and what it was like and how it felt and what I knew I needed and just the stories that I knew, right? And get to bring that into my programs and I get to serve people in a way that that brings them dignity, but also I know it's going to be helpful.
Let's do a commercial break, okay? Talk to families right now that have somebody living on the streets or they're incredibly depressed. I'm thinking of some teenagers right now. I'm thinking of older people myself. What would you say to them?
I would say don't give up. I would say continue to reach out. I would say continue to just show love and pour love. And that might mean that you take some distance. Love is not always saying yes. Love is not always giving into the request, but love is consistent, right? And just being a present in someone's life is more than enough. I would say continue praying. I would say that God is a God of miracles. I would say that God can reach the darkest pits more than we ever could. Right? And I really think that if we keep the faith, we keep that belief strong, that God can do miracles. God is a miracle worker.
He is.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could stop right there, but we want to talk about a few more things. What's Bridges Out of Poverty?
Bridges Out of Poverty is a great framework for professionals. And so professionals can use this framework and it addresses poverty at an individual level, community level, and society level. The big thing I really want to promote about Bridges Out of Poverty is that there's a cultural difference for people who grew up in generational poverty. Cultural difference than middle class. And so us as service providers I'm going to help. I have all these programs. That's wonderful. But if we don't understand the culture of poverty, we're going to be missing each other. So there's often frustration with those who are using the services and frustration with those who are providing the services. And we just can't seem to understand where we're missing each other.
Could you tell me a couple of the big issues, the big differences there?
Yes. So generational poverty necessitates a set of cultural norms. So in order to survive, generational poverty is a survival environment. So your behaviors are going to change to survive. So there's things such as there's hidden rules of class that we talk about. So money is to be spent because I might not have it tomorrow. Middle class, money is to be saved because we have value upon our future and upon achievement. So for one, we're not, we might look down on people who are misusing their money, but in their mind, if I don't use it now or I don't help my friend today, then they're not going to help me tomorrow when I really need it. Relationships are number one driving force for those in poverty. Achievement is more about middle class driving force. Not to say relationships aren't, but achievement.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is really helpful, just even that little glimmer of hope.
Yeah.
So how do people connect with you about Bridges Out of Poverty? You teach?
I teach it, yeah. So I teach Bridges Out of Poverty. I'm a trained facilitator in that. And so I can provide courses, a small training course. I can do up to 3 days if you really want an in-depth Bridges Out of Poverty, which is developed by Dr. Ruby Payne. I can do a small informational session. I can do a large informational session. Otherwise, you can go to the ahaprocess.com and you can find a trainer near you and that they can train you in Bridges Out of Poverty.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
We have a minute left in the program. What would be on your heart to share with people? What makes Sara McKnight tick?
What makes me tick?
Yeah.
I think just that idea that the middle class and poverty, honestly, that is something that makes me tick. Because I've been on both sides, right? I'm now someone who would be considered stable, but I was unstable. And I think those in poverty have such skills that we just don't understand. They have skills. They are problem solvers. They are people who have the ability to do great, great things. And sometimes we don't see that because we're looking through it at a different lens. And I think we just need to remember that everyone from every economic class has skill sets that we all need and that we do need each other to move forward and that we need someone from every walk of life in order to make a solution for us to go forward.
What a great statement. We're going to close there. Just want to thank you for being with us today. I'm looking forward to you coming back.
Yes, I love
Okay.
Yes.
Good. You're watching The Perspective. My name is Mike Sherbino. We're glad you're with us today. And at any time, you can write to us. You can find our resources. Just go to theperspective.tv.